This is the 1910 hours GMT edition of the BabyAngelGeronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting continuous updates on the BabyAngelGeronimo Manifesto for Animals and Society. You notice that the title has been extended to Manifesto for Animals and Society. BabyAngelGeronimo editions, Baby Angel Manifesto for Animals and Society. Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting at 1910 hours GMT on Friday, 19th of January 2022. So we are looking at the latest revelation by the I newspaper of a whole set of post office IT scandals, corruption and criminality going back decades and separate from the Fujitsu Horizon scandal. So there has been an alleged order, part of the propaganda by the Rishi Sunak regime, for the post office to investigate that series of allegations. In today's edition of the I newspaper, one of the women, actually probably the only woman postmistress who was sent to prison while she was pregnant. She was pregnant and she was sent to prison. Seema Misra is featured, and she has been featured in other reports as well. So we shall be talking a bit more about Seema Misra and what that says about whoever sent her to prison, whether it was a crown court or another level of court that decided to send her to prison, despite the fact that she must have protested about the serious anxiety and distress that she was experiencing, fearing for the safety of her unborn child. On the other front, the international news front, there is in the same I newspaper of Friday the 19th of January 2024, there is this item, a so-called expert item, but it's a propaganda for the American corrupt regime. It's a so-called research institute, think tank, based in Washington, D.C. And this comment, I'll reach for the item. This item is headed, Iran strikes could push Pakistan to breaking point. Now, for the entire period since 14th of August 1947, Western criminals have used the phrase Pakistan is about to collapse. Pakistan is about to collapse. Pakistan is on breaking point. Fuck off. The bigger point on the same page is Pakistan retaliates with rockets after Iran missile strike. So the fuckers can't make up their fucking mind, the shits. Now, this idiot is called Michael. What's the name of the fucker? Michael Kugelman is alleged to be a director of a so-called South Asia Institute at the Wilson Center in Washington, D.C. Fuck them. The entire issue of the newspaper today is dominated by items about the post-war scandal, and especially focusing mainly on the behavior of the liar Ed Davey. Now, I particularly have an extra item of evidence that shows that Ed Davey is unfit for purpose. He's a crook. He's a liar and a psychopath. And I keep thinking about that interview that he was featured in, interview fronted by the racist Kathy Newman on Channel 4 News at the time. Kathy Newman, the shit, asked him and Joe Swinson, his alleged rival in the then Lib Dem leadership contest, what they would do. Would they press the nuclear button? And without a second, without a millisecond thought, both of them said yes, they would. So mass murder and genocide would not only be acceptable, they would be most enthusiastic, both of them, Joe Swinson and Ed Davey. Think about that. These are the lunatics that have been in power. And he was, at the time of the post office scandal, he was for 2 years, I mean, in David Crook Cameron's coalition, Lib Dem coalition, Ed Davey was imposed as the Postal Affairs Minister. And even after it was disclosed to him that the Horizon system was not safe, he enthusiastically supported extra contract to be given to the Japanese, extra contract by the British government to be given to the Japanese company, Fujitsu. So that's Ed Davey. Now let's turn the Ed Davey pages. Now this is the front page of the I newspaper, has got a trailer. Ed Davey backed plan to use Fujitsu despite Horizon scandal. That is the heading. Lib Dem leader set to face questions over his support in 2014. And on page 7 of the I newspaper today, Friday the 19th of January 2024, the details are there. This is a 2-page spread on pages 6 and 7. And pages 6 and 7, the main heading, Post Office order to investigate claims over second IT scandal. And on page 7, it says, Davey backed Fujitsu plan despite Horizon concerns. This is billed as exclusive by Vanguard side. And another one is reaction. Inquiry could be expanded to examine earlier claims. And another one under the quotes, it says peer, that is a member of the House of Peers, pushes for parallel fast-track to examine new batch of appeals. Now, it is absolutely kind of this scandal, unfitness for purpose, lying by ministers, corruption, criminality, while they were all focusing on innocent postmasters and mistresses and harassing the postmasters and mistresses. These are the normal behavior that are being reported. Now, BabyAngelGeronimo was targeted by the DEFRA criminals, a government department just like the post office executive. DEFRA department targeted BabyAngelGeronimo, and the target was based on the big lie that BabyAngelGeronimo was infected with bovine tuberculosis. And the BabyAngelGeronimo had already successfully, easily, flyingly passed a test without any trace of any illness or infection being found in his biology. When he was tested in New Zealand, before he left New Zealand and traveled to join in South Gloucestershire in England, Helen MacDonald, who had other alpacas. But Geronimo has had his own space, a compound separate from other alpacas. So physically, he could not be physically in contact with other alpacas, other animals. But he didn't have to be separated, but he was separated. So that is an extra safety for him and extra safety for the purposes of evidence that he could not be near any other animals. Now, the narrative of the DEFRA criminals suggests that under the DEFRA regime, all the actions are ongoing and active round the clock, 24 hours, 24/7, under the supervision of DEFRA to make sure that animals are safe. Nothing could be further from the truth. DEFRA is a dangerously criminals infected department of the UK central government. And DEFRA is the last, absolutely last agency to be given any control over supervising, auditing, checking whether BabyAngelGeronimo was negative in terms of the question in the interrogation of the test as to whether he was infected with bovine tuberculosis. So the manifesto that we are continuing will have absolutely 100% independent organization regime under the BabyAngelGeronimo Manifesto for animals and society. This will be done because there cannot be any trust placed in a criminal organization, criminally active, DEFRA or similar. And the other thing is that there cannot be a chance taken. Because when they actually targeted BabyAngelGeronimo, they did that for the purpose of creating an example. By murdering, their plot was to murder the BabyAngelGeronimo. They were planning to frighten other owners of other animals that were absolutely innocent and free from any illness. BabyAngelGeronimo was never tested in England. He could not be tested in England because the regime that was in control of testing was the DEFRA regime, which is a criminal regime, whose purpose was to distort the truth even before doing the test, even before staging the test. And when they did the corrupted test of baby angel Geronimo, they did that corruptly and by in advance distorting the result of the test by injecting him to influence his entire biology to become the opposite of what it normally would be. So whatever outcome they produced was an outcome they intended to find, and that was the outcome they wanted to use to justify the lying program, which was to say that baby angel Geronimo had tested positive, which is absolute lie. And all the evidence coming out of the Horizon scandal, Fujitsu scandal, shows that the government departments are staffed with people who are corrupt, dishonest, unreliable, and untruthful, and cannot be trusted. So any regime that actually wants to carry out any test on animals, like baby angel Geronimo, should be free from the influence of a government department like DEFRA that is dishonest and unreliable. So it has to be an absolutely independent organization and regime and framework. Now back to Ed Davey. Now Ed Davey is a dishonest criminal. He lost the election in 2015, his seat in Surbiton in the House of Commons. And as a compensation, the criminal was given a knighthood. And he came back at the next election from the same seat. Now there, a former postmistress is challenging him at the next election, whenever the next election takes place. And she, Miss Stacy, who is challenging Ed Davey. Okay, let's find the quotation. She is saying, she's Yvonne Stacy, I am standing as a resident, not a politician, to put honesty and integrity back into this election. And I'll fight and fight tirelessly for people once and for all, for my former colleagues. There have been occasions when independents have stood for election and defeated establishment politicians like Michael Portillo, a fascist and right-winger criminal conservative, was defeated at the election in 1997, I think. And his defeat was unexpected, of course. And since Michael Portillo was defeated, his defeat has been referred to by journalists as the Michael Portillo moment. It is quite possible, of course, it cannot be guaranteed until after the election result, that Ed Davey will be defeated by Yvonne Stacy. So they're already talking about there being a possibility that Ed Davey will face a Michael Portillo moment. Ed Davey and Vince Cable, he's the leader of the Lib Dems that was there before Ed Davey became the leader. These are unreliable individuals like Nick Clegg, who is paid, I don't know, he could be paid hundreds of millions of pounds. Literally, he could be being paid hundreds of millions of pounds by Mark Zuckerberg as the propagandist for Facebook. Now, Clegg, when at the election, 2010 election, in the run up to the 2010 parliamentary election in the UK, there was a big movement about tuition fees, tuition fees for British students. And in the campaign, at the stage where he was recorded as being asked questions about what he would do in power, about student fees, and he said that he would scrap student fees. I mean, he would scrap student fees in the sense that he'd make student fees paid by the state. As soon as he became part of the David Cameron coalition of Lib Dems, Clegg lied and reversed his promise. This was a big disappointment for those students and campaigners who had actually believed in good faith that Clegg would be the minister to get rid of the tuition fees burden from the students in the United Kingdom. This created an unprecedented revulsion at the Lib Dems, and the Lib Dems have not recovered from the loss of 40 plus seats of members of parliament that they suffered at the 2015, was it 2015 or 2017 general election? It was the election anyway that happened after the 2010 election, at which the Lib Dems were given the trust by the people with a very significant number of members of parliament seats. But while they were part of the coalition, Lib Dem coalition, and Clegg was committing absolute lying about Trump, it became absolutely, totally full of condemnation of Lib Dems. And so therefore they didn't vote for the Lib Dems in the next election. And with the increasing number of seats being lost to the Lib Dems is a completely bogus kind of opposition platform in the UK House of Commons. So therefore, against that background, Ed Davey is one of the loneliest Lib Dem MPs who is getting media attention for all the wrong reasons, because this attention that he is getting this week, that he lied and he colluded with Fujitsu, and he colluded with the program of harassing Shall be ending this edition at this point, and we'll continue on the same theme in later editions.